Now we are coming to a point with probably now a little over 5 billion people here. 5 billion people, for the most part, frightened, confused, and in the midst of turmoil, war, plague, pestilence. Our little friend who took care of the African pygmies for a long time, a fine man, told me that the bubonic plague has broken out in Africa. Now, it probably won't go far, that's true. We have methods of curbing it. But here in the 20th century, we are seeing the ills arise that we fought desperately against in the 10th century. And we have not caused changes that add up to solution. We keep right on making the same mistake we made before. We are still frightened to death of the Turk and the comet and the plague, exactly in that order. Now we're afraid of planets, stars that explode somewhere in the far vistas of space. We're afraid of everything because some way we realize we have built no security into ourselves or our world. So we have to do something, but we can just do most of the things we're doing now, and if we try hard and we work sincerely and we wish all well that we can, and we get together and try to make better laws and better rules, all these things are helpful. There's no question about it. But each individual who belongs to that type of hope must work on himself. He must not assume that any political system is going to make a good person bad or a bad person good. The individual has his virtues, his integrities, his values in himself from the moment he is born. In fact, he has brought them with him from previous embodiments. He is no longer unequipped. He has the resources. He has exactly what is necessary to him. And he also has the power to control himself if he wants to. The excesses of the day are habit forming. We are doing the things that we think are the most comfortable because we like to assume that if we keep on going, we will finally achieve the peace and the security we want to receive. But the whole problem is very, very shaky. We must realize that the great struggle for wealth that began long ago is still with us. Croesus was the ancient king who was supposed to have been the richest man who ever lived. And a philosopher, who probably didn't have much more than the coat he was wearing, was talking with this king one day, and Croesus pointed out to him all the wealth of gold and jewels and precious things in his treasuries. And the philosopher looked at him for a moment and said, "Yes, you have all these things, but a man with better iron can take them all away from you." And this is what we've been doing, trying to get better iron, trying to fight these things this way, trying to take over somebody else's wealth or try to hold on to our own. The problem of material gain is frustrated by something that we cannot beat, and that is that we're not permanent residents here at this time. In a few years, what we have is going to be separated from us. Now, this does not mean that we shouldn't have what we need and a reasonable amount of security, but it means that the fantasy of great conglomerates of power, with individuals sacrificing love, friendship, honor, and everything for something that they must in a very short time leave as a heritage to someone else, who perhaps will do no better with it than they did. The whole idea that the material world is permanent, that we can build empires, all this is a delusion which has arisen as the result of a kind of spiritual ignorance that mankind has suffered from always. This idea that here is where we should do bigger and better things. We should do better things, but not necessarily bigger ones. What we need to do definitely is to prepare ourselves to be citizens of eternity, a citizen of a world that is far greater than any wealth that we can possibly possess. Actually, our wealth is very transitory. Our power is very ephemeral. A few days ago, a citizen of the one major nation who had served it for many years retired. He had every high office that the country could give him, and then he decided that it was enough. So he simply stepped down of his own accord and decided to go back and spend the rest of his life as a gentleman farmer. This is an experience we all have to face, that all is the power and glory and everything is not what we are really looking for. The family is not going to be better because all the members are making high salaries. It's better when they are happy people, constructive people, expressing the higher emotions and desires of life. Bacon was one of those who believed that science was capable of unselfish love, that all this intellectualism was merely a kind of protection against a minor hurt of one kind or another, but that all knowledge is based in the fact that truth is worthy of our affection, that the truthful are the truly loving, and that everything that we do that is right makes more friendship, better relationships, and helps to enrich our daily experiences with each other. Everyone who wants to go out and try to help the world at this time should also be very much dedicated to the idea of correcting in himself the faults he objects to in society. If he thinks too many people are selfish, then he had best look himself over carefully to make sure that he isn't. Because in many cases he will find that he has more selfishness than he realizes. But of course he kind of gets over it himself. He has a kind of selfishness that has a beautiful quality about it, whereas other people's selfishness is not nearly so beautiful. So selfishness is justifiable in the person who thinks he is doing well, but it is not. Here we have now organizations springing up everywhere of people who want to get back to facts and who realize that unless we do something, we're not going to get back to facts. And the effort to grow is wonderful, but it should definitely have two objectives. One, to help the world to grow, and the other, to make sure that we grow. Now, growth in this case has no relationship to bodily or material advantages. Growth is not to have more. It is to be more as a living being. Growth is to have a greater insight, a greater internal resolution, a broader and deeper vision of the purpose of things. And without this inner maturing, the exterior has no defense. If we do not live from the inside, then we will be the victims of our own material attitudes, and they are the ones that are giving us trouble. So I think we should realize that whenever we join movements, whenever we unite our efforts in some religious dedication, that the moment we dedicate our lives to any improvement, we must start improving ourselves. That we must be worthy of greater insight, that we must be worthy of a source within ourselves of insights and integrities. Now, as we change ourselves, a miracle occurs, a miracle that cannot come from books or conversations, the miracle of our own value sense changing, the miracle by means of which we begin to have positive instruction from inside of ourselves, that we transfer leadership to the internal life. And this means we give it to the eternal part of our own beings. We turn the leadership of our daily conduct over to our ideals and our integrities, rather than trying to adjust these ideals to the temporal excesses of those around us. So with the correction of our own mistakes, a broader, deep